Hello dear friends, peace be with you. 1 Thessalonians 5:24 says, "The one who calls you is faithful and he will also accomplish it." Having been very active with the Jesus Youth movement in my early formation years, I've witnessed quite a few people give up their career, their financial security, their comfort zones to say yes to God's call. I've always wondered what gave them the strength to do so. During my interaction with them, I asked them this question and they told me, when you hear God's call, you can do two things. You can either say yes or you can say no, but you can't negotiate terms and conditions with God. Sometimes, like our Blessed Virgin Mary, we have to give up a lot to say our yes. In 2016, when I heard whispers of God's voice to start Song on Fire, I knew I can either say yes or I can say no. During that time in my life, I was jobless, had no financial security, had no support from my family members. Common sense told me to say no and take care of my own life. But I chose to say yes. It has been 2 years since. God has provided for me, sustained me, and has led me to the fullness of His purpose. As Bishop Barron would say, God creating us was not a dumb event. He has a specific purpose for each and every one of us. Our lives will change when we identify our mission and say yes to it. Saint Pope John Paul II, Saint Therese of Lisieux, Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta, Saint Ignatius of Loyola, just to mention a few whose lives changed after they said yes to God's call, and in turn, they changed the world for the better. Well, the Jesus Youth movement has been a platform for many youngsters to be formed and disciplined to heed God's call and say yes to it. Today, I would like to introduce to you one such special person from Jesus Youth. Her name is Shelina Guedes and she's from the United Kingdom. Against all odds, she took a 1-year commitment to be a Jesus Youth Fulltimer to do God's work in Canada. She had to leave her comfort zone, security and friends. Nevertheless, she decided to say yes and her life changed for the good. In this interview, Shelina shares on how she heard God's call, her discernment process, and how she eventually went on to say yes to be a Jesus Youth Fulltimer. So please join us for this wonderful interview. God bless you. So we start, Shelina. We will start by you giving a brief introduction to your family.
So my name is Shelina and I was born in India. It's in a small town called Daman. It's a union territory, but not many people know about the place. At the age of 13, I moved to the UK. I live in a city called Peterborough with my mom, dad. I have an older sister who's married and happily settled in Peterborough as well.
Your schooling and college studies, where did you do that?
So I was raised in India till the age of 13. So I did my half of my secondary education was in India. And then I came to England and I started from grade 9, completed my GCSE or SSC in India. And then I went on to study A-levels and then I went on to study pharmacy at university. I completed my master's and graduated in 2012. Started practicing as a pharmacist in 2013. And right now I'm working as a pharmacist. I work at the hospital. And yeah, that's...
Cool. So Shelina, if you could also give a background of how your upbringing was. Was it a very faithful Catholic house or how was it?
Yeah, I mean, I was raised in a traditional Catholic family. So my parents, the usual Catholic parents would take their children to church on a Sunday for Mass. We would have rosary in the evening, family rosary. So that was pretty much it. Like for me, my faith was about going for Mass with my parents and saying few prayers. There was nothing as a personal encounter. There was nothing that, I knew Christ as a living person. Whatever the priest told us, learn the prayers, we learned it, we would just say it and that was it. For me, faith was just a tradition. It wasn't faith really, it was just tradition for me. So I used to go stand in front of the statues, pray, say a few prayers, because my mom says you got to pray. So that's basically it, really. And then when I went to university at the age of 18. Sorry, just before that, I think I should give you a bit of background of what happened after I came to England. When I came at the age of 13, by the way, that wasn't my choice to move to England. My parents wanted me and my sister to have better education and quality of life. So that's why we all moved as a family. When I started school, the very first day I started school, I experienced terrible bullying. And before that, I didn't know what bullying was. I had no idea what this term meant, bullying. And the first day I went, I remember like this girl just like threw something at me, and I was like, wow, that's a nice introduction. Nice. Maybe she wants to be my friend. I mean, I don't know. It was just, and it just got worse and worse. And they made me feel so bad. They made me feel like, the things they commented on, the looks, and eventually I started to think that, I'm actually that ugly. Why did God make me ugly? That's when I started to feel so low. And I remember at that, that crucial age for a teenager, that was a big thing. Like I still remember feeling so down and depressed, and I had no friends in this country when I came. And, I used to just write in a book, all my sad stories, Anyway, so that's when my mom said, that's fine. Just pray to God. There is a God, and pray to him. And I was like, okay, sure. And, we would go to the church and do the usual thing, but still there was no relationship. But because I had no friends here, I realized that, okay, I started praying more because I realized I needed someone. And, slowly, I started to get good company of friends. So a few more Indian people came to the school. Before, there was very few Indian people. So I was, brown skin was seen as a something that they never seen. I don't know. But I had more people come from India, and then we were getting bullied in a gang. So I was like, that's great. I'm not on my own anymore. There's a huge gang getting bullied together. So that was great. No, but then things died out, and then I started to focus more on my education. In India, I was not at all keen in studies. I was more with friends. I had a huge gang of friends in India, and I was happy with that. When I came here, no friends, and then I started focusing on education. I realized actually I started getting not appreciated, but started getting known for getting good results. And then people started coming to me asking for help. And, I realized, okay, so slowly I was starting to get known in the school. So things got better, and I went to university.
So where was this personal encounter? When did you have this personal encounter, Shelina?
Yeah, so this personal encounter happened when when I started university, I went to a small prayer group. So my friend said, that on a Thursday there's a prayer meeting called a Jesus Youth prayer meeting, and I didn't know anything about Jesus Youth, or I was like, sure, I'll go. And the first day I went, it was great because at the end of the prayer meeting they would give us food. And I was like, wow, free food, that's awesome. For university students, that's a good thing. And then there was a conference after first year of my university. There was a conference in the summer called Dare to Go in the UK. And I attended that conference, and it was a 5 days program. And the first 3 days, nothing much was happening. It was, I was doing the same thing, praying, yes. And then the very first encounter, I should say, it was during an inner healing session. I had no idea what inner healing session was, by the way. So I went in before the Blessed Sacrament, yeah. So I went in, and they were praying, talking about asking for healing from what has happened in your past, and asking for forgiveness from your parents. And a lot of people were crying around me, and something within me moved. What happened was, like, all these flashbacks started coming to me. Of the bullying experience, the problems that I went through in my childhood, and it all became so fresh. And I remember crying. I burst out into tears. And this word, whoever was leading it, he said, it's your father and he loves you. Just jump into your daddy's arm. And I remember God carrying me, like, and he was telling me that all these years, without you knowing me, I was carrying you. That's I just saw like someone carrying me through this as I was crying. So that was my initial encounter of starting to realize that there is somebody around me. There is something around me. I still hadn't fully experienced it. So that nothing much happened. It was after that, I started to sort of know more about God. I was like, okay, there is something more than just a statue. So after that, the right people, God sent the right people to follow up with me. They would just call me now and again for programs, and just kept me involved, really. That's why I really appreciate the Jesus Youth, the elders, how they journey with young people. And I'm probably one of them who they really followed up with me, journeyed with me. They understood what I was going through and didn't judge me. For the first time in my life, I was not being judged. I went to a place, I shared my weakness, my brokenness, and they were like, hey, that's all right, man, because even I'm going through the same. And I was like, wow, really? So, I found that like-minded people who were going through the same problem that I was. And so after that, I wanted to be more involved in the movement. I wanted, I was praying like, God, how can I serve you? What can I do to not just get involved, but I also want to know you more. I want to continue this encounter. I don't want it to just be that one emotional experience and that's it. So again, God sent the right people to direct me in the right path. So somehow I ended up in this music ministry, and I believe it's truly God's providence to get me involved in that. So that's where
You started getting involving yourself with the Jesus Youth movement. But Shelina,
right.
There was a time when a person from the Jesus Youth movement came and asked you that if you wanted to take a full-time commitment, right? Could you also explain what happened the first time when they asked you, and the second time when they asked you, what went through your mind and how you decided, okay, you're going to go ahead with that?
Yeah. So the first time I was asked about full-timership, it was in 2012 after I graduated. So a Jesus Youth elder, he approached me and said, hey, there is something called full-timership. But at that time, I didn't know fully what the program was about. So I said, okay, I'll ask my parents. And I didn't really pray or discern or anything. I told my parents that this person is asking me to go for a 1 year of full-timership. And by the way, the program, they send you for 1 month training in Thailand, and 1 year I don't know where they'll send me for a year, but you have to be ready to send me anywhere. So the straight answer was no. That's it. But that time I didn't really think about. I didn't think too much, like why. I was like, my parents said no. That's it. And then I started working. I got into job, and it was great. I started working, good money, salary. I got a car and everything. And during those years, from 2013 to 2016, that years that I was working, I started to experience this sense of emptiness, or a sense of feeling without any purpose. It's like I thought that when I was studying, I thought, okay, once I graduate, once I get a job, it's going to be great because I'm going to start getting money. So I started to fill all those things with these kind of temporary things, and I realized that it only lasted for maybe 2 days, maximum a week, the happiness. And I realized, is this what God wants me to do? Is this my life going to be from now until I die or whatever, till the end? And it was very depressing thinking of that, is this the life that God wants me to live? And I started thinking about it, praying, like, God, what is it? Is it music you want me to do? Is it the young people you want me to help? Tell me something. And then I attended a conference in 2015 called Alive, again, another national conference in the UK. And at the end, they gave out few questionnaires asking what sort of mission would you like to be involved in. So there was 1 month full-timership, and 3-month mission. So I ticked all the boxes because I thought there were 500 participants. There's no way they're going to go through each one. But again, God, this is how God surprises you. So after after 2 days, after 3-4 days, she's a previous full timer. She was a previous full timer. She rang me saying, by the way, you have ticked full timership. Have you thought about full timership? And I thought, okay, at this age, I was 26 at the time. I was like, at this, I don't think I'm allowed to do full timership because I've gone past the age. Because usually it's graduates after the 22, 23 years. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do full timership. She's like, no, of course you can. And then I was like, okay. Initially, I didn't think much about it. I put the phone down, and then something in me started to it started playing up in my mind. Full timership. Think about it. And I was feeling really restless because a part of me was saying, yes, I really want to. I think this is something that God is calling me. I felt like a strong conviction that God is preparing me for this mission. But the other part of me was like, but wait, I've got a job. That means I'll have to quit my job. I have my family. I have to leave my family behind. All these things. And I was like, oh, what do I do? Like, I was really torn apart. And that restlessness was there within me. And I couldn't settle down until I made a decision. So one day, I just sat down in prayer and I told God that I'm going to discern for one whole week. I'm not going to tell my parents anything. If this is something that you have prepared for me, then you have to sort out everything. You have to prepare everything for me. So I discerned for 1 week. So I approached my parents and I explained to them that they've asked me again for full timership, and I would like to go for something like this at the age of 26. When, by the way, they were looking for me to get married. Okay, typical Indian parents. So the answer I got from my parents were like, "You're old enough. If you think this is something that God is calling you to do, then go for it, and we will support you." Considering they are a traditional Catholic family, not charismatic, not fully having a Christ encounter or anything, but they were like, if this is something God is calling you, go for it. And I was like, okay. I thought that was going to be hard, but so I was like, great, God, you sorted this. So I was like, next thing is job. So I was going to meet up with my manager to say that I want to quit my job because I have to go for this 1 year. But I realized I work for the NHS, and they offer something like career break, work-life balance policy. So you can take a career break up to 5 years, but that is if it's agreed with your manager. So I met up with my manager, and I explained to him what I wanted to do and about the mission, and he's a Muslim, by the way. He's not Catholic, and he said, wow, this is something that not many people would think of doing. Like, do you get a salary for doing this? I was like, no, there is no salary. I just sort of live on providence or whatever people give me, right? And he said, okay, I'll get back to you. And within a week, they said that your career break has been granted. You don't have to quit your job. You can go and come back, and you can restart your job at the same position that you left with. So just 3 months before, I had got a promotion to a higher position, and there was me approaching my manager saying, by the way, I need a career break. And he was like, you come back, you get the same position. So I saw from that when you give something to God, or when you say yes, I lost nothing. Like the same thing which Pope Benedict XVI mentioned in one of his homily, that if you let Christ enter into your lives, you lose nothing, absolutely nothing. And that's something that I experienced, and I shared this everywhere I went in my full-timership, because I was amazed by the faithfulness of this God. I was thinking he surprises me every day, and that's why now it's made me more courageous to say yes. He wants me, I will go for it, because I know I have nothing to lose. So yeah.
And after you overcame all these challenges that were facing you, you still took time to say yes, the final yes to the people in Jesus Youth. And you said that until you said yes, you were feeling restless. Could you explain that phase of your life?
Restlessness was probably because God had put that desire in me.
Yeah.
And I was resisting the desire.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was something in me. saying yes, this is, and that was placed by God, but I was saying no. So I feel that was probably the restlessness that I was experiencing, that I was trying to resist what God was trying to work in me or trying to do in my life. That was the answer to my prayer. I wanted to find my purpose. He's giving me the opportunity, but I'm saying no. I want to find out the opportunity or the purpose in an easy way.
And Shelina, so by the time you came to this point of identifying your purpose and this full-timership came your way, you had already experienced the luxury of the UK lifestyle with money, happy-go-lucky kind of a lifestyle, a very free culture. So what did it mean for you to leave all that and go to an unknown place and you didn't even know what to expect there, right? It was a complete sense of detachment from all that you were experiencing in your life.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was very, very hard for me because firstly, I'm a very anxious person. I'll give you an example where the same girl who was journeying with me during this full-timership, who was trying, helping me make the decision. She had done full-timership previously. So just 6 months before I had to go for this training, I was calling her probably once in a week, asking her, what do I pack in my bags? What do I take? So I was very anxious because I didn't know what I was stepping into. That trust in God is very, very hard. It is very, very hard for me. It was very hard to trust at that time. Leaving everything behind, especially my family. I'd never left home. So it was immensely difficult. I remember when I left to go to Canada, my parents came to drop me off at the airport. And I told my parents, you have to be brave, otherwise you don't come to the airport. And they said, no, we will be fine, we'll be fine. But guess what? The moment they left, I went to the toilet. I burst in tears because the pain was it was very painful leaving my parents, which is why I appreciate, priests and religious people leaving their home forever, to serve God. And I only experienced that for a year, but they do it for their lifetime. So it is very, very hard. And the hardest part was having no salary. So trying to live on somebody else's money. So that was one of my struggle actually during my full-timership, accepting money from people. So they would give it as to help me out during my full-timership. But then I had this sense of this pride in me, no, how, I have never accepted money. I'm an independent person. So that was a struggle that God was asking me that, humble yourself, accept the money. It's very basic money, but you got to accept. So it was challenging. It wasn't easy at all. But at the end of the day, it was very beautiful, living without any salary. When you go to town, knowing that you can't spend much or spend nothing. So all of that was a challenge. But really, I experienced the blessings and the experience that I had cannot be compared to all these things that I had to give up.
Yeah. One more follow-up question, Shelina. So recently I did a FB live where I spoke about how God does not negotiate when he sends you on a mission. So, even in your experience, God did not give you a great assurance or great sense of security when you were going to Canada. It was still an unknown thing for you, but you had to take the leap of faith, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's all there is, to be honest. I mean, when you take this decision to full-timership, firstly, you don't know where you're going. I was expecting any country, really. I was like, I've made the decision. But at the same time, that fear was there in me that, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? Who's going to look after me? When I went to Canada, I knew absolutely nobody. I stepped in that country knowing nobody. So that was another fear of, I have to make the effort to know them first. Get to know the people. So everything was really based on relying on God. Like after I left home, I have no parents, no friends, nobody. The only person I had was Jesus, who was telling me what to do next and just go for it, just trust and keep going.
And most of the time, if you see throughout the Bible and also in the saints' life, that whenever God sends you on a mission, it is not only for you to be a blessing, but also God wants to bless you through that experience. So God is more
Yeah.
concerned about this your soul more
Yeah.
than the mission. So
Yeah.
did you feel
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. When I went to Canada, they told me that because you're the first full timer in Canada, we don't know what sort of what your mission is. So for the first 3 months, they placed me in a convent with the nuns, and there I 1 week was good, second week great. After third week, I was realizing what's happening. Am I here for a mission? Because I went with that zeal that there'll be programs and mission. I have to go out. I'm a missionary, right? So I got to do something. I can't be sitting in a room, just in a chapel, just praying all the time. But really, that was the time that God had saved that part of my full-timership for me. He wanted that time just for me. So I remember I was feeling so lost and abandoned in that first 2 months of my full-timership year, because there was no friends, no families, nobody. I had to start everything from scratch, and I started experiencing this frustration, this dryness in me. That why am I here? Like, I used to sit in the chapel. There used to be Blessed Sacrament, and I remember one day just sitting in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and I was just crying, and I didn't even feel like praying, but I was literally angry at God that why did you send me here? What is my mission? Why am I not in Uganda helping the poor? Or that could be a mission, right? Because people associate mission with helping the poor, doing charity work. I'm just sitting here in this comfortable place, looking at you, and I got this message come to me that why are you not seeking comfort in me, right? Why you were so basically God was trying to teach me that I want you to seek comfort in me. This is what you're doing right now, and this is exactly what I want. When I was in the UK, I would speak to my parents, speak to friends, call friends up, meet up with them. That's it. Where is God in that comforting period? He wasn't there. So for me to build that relationship, to know how beautiful it is to be comforted by this loving God, I could only experience during that time of abandonment, that time of dryness, that time of frustration. So that's how God worked in my life. He wanted me to spend more time with Him. Feel angry, feel anything you want, but with Him. So that was much needed, and that's what He changed in me. So how that is helping me now in my routine life, I still experience dryness, still experience struggles, but I know now that, so I no longer seek comfort from other people around me, even though I have all my family and friends around me, but I don't want it, because I've seen how much more beautiful that comforting God is. And I think it's something that you have to experience, and it's just beautiful. Like, I love it. I can just come in my room, sit, feel angry at God, say something, but everything is with Him. And, He speaks to me. He speaks to me in a beautiful way, and I'm fine. And I don't want to go back to that, seeking comfort from other people around me, because that doesn't last very long.
Immediately after you came back, finishing your full-timership in Canada, you said that you felt a sense of purpose and a mission, right?
Yeah. So when I came back, one thing that God definitely revealed to me during my full-timership year is that, I don't have to go to places and do big things. Your mission starts from your home, from your family, very small. So I came back with that I'm going to start from my place. To be able to go out and share, we have to start from our house. And my parents are now helping me with any little mission that we have here. For example, on a Saturday we have kids from 6 to 13-year-old. They come to my house. It's a very small house. They all cram and they sit like this. But we sit, we just do action songs, Bible study, whatever they want to do, whatever they enjoy. And my parents are there to just sit there to help them. Something that they were not doing before, but now they are. So that was probably a blessing for me, because to have support of your mom and dad is very, very important.
So even for me, when I identified my mission with Song on Fire, so I just wanted to leave India, go somewhere, and start following my purpose with Song on Fire. But you know what happened? God brought me back to my home, to be with my father and mother. So as you said, God first wants us to be a witness in our own home, so that we can be a witness outside. Yeah. So you continue.
Yeah. So one thing was clear, that God wanted me to help the youth, the young people here, because in this country, they, and that was probably my idea as well before, that church is only for old people. When you're about to go to the grave, that's when you start praying, and for the young people, that's what it is. So I knew that my mission here in Peterborough is to help the young people, and I didn't know how. But again, God being a faithful God, He showed me a way. The very next day, I landed in the UK, and the parish priest, he rang me saying, "Can you come and meet me?" So I went to see the priest, and he said, "I want you to be a catechism teacher for confirmation students." So there you go. That was an opening for me to know the youth in our parish, and praise God that right now, I'm able to share my testimony. I'm able to share the experiences that I've experienced, the Christ encounter to these people, not just giving them the church teaching. So there is a priest as well who teaches and is part of this confirmation. But along with that, I'm able to share my experiences, my Christ encounter, sort of journey with them on a personal level, and yeah, so that is one of my mission right now in Peterborough, to build the the youth ministry here, to get many people, the young people especially, to know this God, because He's worth knowing. I think it's definitely worth giving this God a chance, because for me, the happiness that I was looking for, which I tried to fill with money and other things, didn't satisfy. That God-shaped hole was only filled by God Himself. And right now, even the salary, money, everything is there, but that is secondary. All these things does not identify who I am. For me right now, even if I lose all these things, I'd like to think that I'm a child of God, and I'm loved by this person, and nothing can take that away from me. That happiness is very beautiful. And yeah, I just love having God in every situation of my life, whether it be in my workplace, whether it be in my home, whether it be walking alone.
Yeah, so I was about to ask you about the workplace, the work that you're doing, Shelina. So after you came back from Canada, you would have been on fire, right? So you would have wanted to do a lot of work for God. But did you ever despise the work that you were doing, the work as a pharmacist? Did you ever despise that?
Of course. Of course, because it's I mean, I don't despise it, but it's a routine job, Monday to Friday. Some days you feel like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? I could be traveling the world, helping the poor, and doing a lot of things. But then that is my desire, that is my will to do. But that is not what God wills for me. So I have come to terms that, that right now God's will for my life is to be in this workplace, to be different, to share what I have experienced with them. I'll share a small example. Recently, I just had this inspiration when I drive in my car every day to work. I have all these inspirations coming from the Holy Spirit when I'm praying. Like, great, let me try this. So, I thought this Christmas, why not do something different and help, the homeless people who are out on the streets, and it's freezing outside, So I thought, okay, I thought initially, let me do it on my own. But I was like, okay, wait, maybe I can share this with the people. This might, be a good way of evangelizing to them. Yeah, so I just sent out an email saying, share the love this Christmas. And I emailed saying that, let's make this Christmas a bit different and, wrap up the gifts, and we are going to take it to the people in the streets. And, many people, replied saying that, that's a good thing to do. And then you get that opportunity to share why you want to do something like this. Why Christmas, why only Christmas is the season. to be doing something like this. It's rather than just buying gifts for your friends and having turkey and alcohol and everything. That's great, but why not? So that was a good way of evangelizing in my workplace. So yes, I'm talking about my workplace. Yes. So so I mean, this is right. Yeah. So right now I feel that, God has asked me to be in this place, in this dry, boring place of Peterborough, and serve him in the best way possible with my cheerfulness, my joy, even though sometimes I can get moody. But he wants me to be here, to live the mission, to start mission from here. Because, before I would be thinking, when I go to that place, when I will start doing this. So what happens is I ended up procrastinating that I will start doing this and that. But I've come to terms that God wants me to do mission here, and he's opening up many doors to do that. Right now we have this music ministry as well. We are slowly trying to build with my brother-in-law by identifying young people in the parish who plays music, and just inviting them for this open forum where you can just come, bring your instrument, do some music, and if it works out, then so just trying to do little things like that, and God is making that possible. Having the priest as well, they're very, very open to any initiatives that we have. They encourage us to whatever they want us to do. They give us the hall, give us the place, so we have everything to be able to start off whatever we want. So so he has given me all the opportunities available here, which slowly I'm trying to work on. But when you really desire to work for God, he will never let you down, and that's something that I experienced. Like right now, even if nobody is there to support me, there is a strength in me that comes from God alone. That you can do it, Shelina, but it's not you, but it is Christ in you that will make it happen. So I have that assurance.
Yeah, and Shelina, just a personal question. So this full-timer experience would have also been a pruning experience for you, cutting out the sharp edges that you had in your character or in your personality. So what were some big challenges that you were able to overcome during that 1 year of experience that you feel now?
So my one of my challenges, or one of the struggles, is I can get short-tempered very quickly. I'm a short-tempered person. So that is something that God was again and again and again during my full-timership year. He kept bringing many situations like that where I was put in that situation, and I'm getting angry. But he was asking me, no, I want you to let go of this. That's something that he constantly, I had to keep working on it, either by being patient. So I gave up asking God that take away this anger. I asked God, give me some patience, praying for patience and praying to be calm. So now I've realized that although that anger remains in me, but I'm not as abrupt, or impulsive. I would just speak or act at that time. But now I sort of take a step back and I say, okay, I'll just go quiet. Let me reflect on it first, and I'll come back to you. So the struggle still remains, of course, as a human being, and that remains. That's like a thorn in my flesh that's there. I want to get rid of it, but God wants me to have it at this time.